Good afternoon. My name is Kay Peters, and I am the Denton Zone for ESD.
Hi, I'm Miss Anissa. I'm the Ryan Zone Coordinator.
Hello, I'm Miss Estes, and I'm the Braswell Zone Coordinator.
Hello, Fred Clark, the Geyer Zone ESD Coordinator. Hope you enjoyed this presentation on the October 12th training video.
Good afternoon. I am here to help train the ESD staff of 2020-2021 on ESD COVID protocols. Okay, guys, I know that a lot of you have probably gotten very used to our screening protocols, but I want to make sure that as we go into the flu season and as COVID-19 revs up, that we are doing everything possible to make sure that our program and our kids and our staff stay safe. So before you get to the campus, I want to make sure that you're screening yourself for fevers, coughs, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headaches, loss of taste or smell, sore throats, congestion or runny noses, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea. Make sure that when you get to the campus that your temperature is taken. If you don't feel well, please call me or call your coordinators by 10:30 in the morning. We need everybody on deck, but we don't want you to come in if you are feeling sick. If you have had a friend, relative, room buddy, whatever, that has been actually tested for COVID-19 and has actually been told that they have that, then I need you to call me, okay? If you just think that somebody's been infected or has it, but they haven't been tested yet, we can keep you out for a day or two, but we have to have people tested. So make sure that you stay with your coordinators and keep them updated on anything. Wear your mask at all times. When you're out on the weekends, I know it might not be cool to be a college student with a mask. Wear your mask. You are protecting yourself, your families, the program, the children you work with, okay? So please make sure that you always have a mask on, okay? If a student comes into the program and they display symptoms of COVID-19, the nurse will provide a clinical assessment to determine if and when a student needs to be sent home. If the nurse is already gone, go on and just call the parent and isolate the child and tell them that they need to be picked up within the next 30 minutes, okay? Students who are ill, like I said, you need to separate them, but you always must keep an eye on them. You can't rotate out of the area and leave them by themselves, okay? Other students will be removed from the classroom and taken to an alternate location, okay? Don't make a big thing about it. Just quietly move the class, okay? So what do? We're going to check ourselves. We're going to check the students when they come in. Everyone's going to get their head checked by the thermometer. Then we're going to make sure that everyone has hand gel on, or we're washing our hands at the beginning of the program with soap and water. And then they're coming in and we're going to take attendance, okay? With that, as I said, after every rotation, if you start out while one of you is doing attendance, the others can be taking the children and having them wash their hands with soap and water and watching it, okay? A lot of our kids, after doing this for so many weeks, I have started to see them just swiping their hands through the water. Please make sure it's soap and water and that you are monitoring that. Okay. If you do a rotation outside, they need to come back in, and the first things they do is put their mask on and wash their hands with soap and water. That we need to be very diligent with this and make sure that the children are doing it every single day, every rotation. Okay. I know that seems a little bit overboard, but it's very, very important that we keep these children healthy. That will keep you healthy and their families healthy. So if hand gel, you can do hand gel, but I need you to be helping the children wash their hands with soap and water. The expectations for students and staff will follow the protocol for face coverings. No water fountains. They have their water bottles. If you see a student that is drinking more water during the day than is in their water bottle, please ask the parent to provide you with a second water bottle so that students in ESD have plenty of water to take in. I know that some students, I already see them with 2 water bottles, but make sure you are monitoring those water bottles. They cannot be filled at the campus. If you have a lot of students that have empty water bottles and you need some help, please come to me and we will try, or your other coordinators, and we will try to get you additional water some way onto the campus. The classroom doors need to be propped open to reduce the high touch areas. That goes for our program. If you're in the cafeteria, please put the door stops under the doors for the cafeteria doors to remain open. With doing that, make sure that you are keeping the noise level to a 1, which is a whisper, or 0, which is no talking, because there still are teachers working in the building and we need to maintain that very low talking, whispering. Okay. The traffic patterns will be established throughout the campus that separates individuals to the greatest extent possible. When you're lining the children up, make sure every child is 6 feet apart. Make it a game, play something where you can't move but 6 feet. Take a ruler out, measure it, let them see how far 6 feet is. Okay. When you're transitioning in the corridors, they need to stay as far right as possible. Okay. So if they're going down the hall, they're on the right hand side. If they're coming up the hall, they're on the right hand side. But we want to keep one-way traffic going one way and the other traffic coming this other direction. Okay. So please make sure you do that. Physical education class protocol. We have not, I know some campuses have been in the gym. Other schools, we have not allowed ESD in the gym yet. But if you're in the gym, when I say, please make sure that maybe you can play a game outside instead of the gym. If you do a gym game, make sure the children are separated and stay that 6 feet apart. Maybe using pool noodles, if you have them, as batons or running or different things like that. When the children are in the building at all times, they must have a mask on, all times. If you're having struggles with certain children about wearing a mask, please contact your coordinator so that they can support you and be there, and we can help with the family, the child, and the school. Make sure that, the procedures will be implemented. Well, it says in the locker rooms, that's at the high school level, okay? But same thing, I need you to make sure you are wiping down the doors, the fire bars, that the children are definitely washing their hands with soap and water after they're going in to the gym. If they're outside, as I said, it's very important that you have them wash their hands with soap and water. So far, ESD has been pretty good about not getting COVID. So we want to keep these measures in place, and we want to follow through with them to make sure that everybody is staying healthy, okay? It's very important. As we said, what will ESD look like? We already know what ESD looks like. This year has been a very, very different year for us, and very, from one day to the next, there might be new things that are being implemented. In January, we will see some things that are different. Our numbers might go up a little bit, but make sure you are following the protocol that we have put into place, that the schools have in place, and the district has in place. The kids need to be 6 feet apart. They need to be wearing their mask at all time, okay? Make sure that in some way, if you are in a cafeteria that has those big squares are 6 feet apart. Put the tables up, have the children sit on a square and do an activity. Read a book to them. Play a game where they can answer you out loud. But make sure at all times they have hand sanitizer close by, that we are washing their hands with soap and water, and that we have, their mask up and that it's on. If they need assistance with their mask, please help them. If they need a mask, those should be already on campus where you can help them to actually get a mask. Please don't let the children gather outside close together. They need to be separated and distanced. So that means an ESD instructor needs to be open, standing apart from each other, positioning themselves where they can see all of the playground. The important tools, as I mentioned, we've got Perel, we've got soap, we've got Lysol wipes. I know some of you are running out of Lysol wipes. Get the baby wipes that we gave you. Tonight in my home, I am making up a solution of a little bit of Dawn, some vinegar, and water. You can spray it on and wipe it off, and that will also kill the germs. But make sure you are helping the children wash their hands, and wash their hands long enough. Sing the happy birthday song. Do it twice. Find another song that we could make up, maybe a funny one that would talk about, getting the COVID germs and jumping off of us. But please, please make sure that you are helping the children stay safe, that we're wearing our mask, we're washing our hands, we're wiping down our tables before the children get to the program. We are making sure that if we play any games, the games are sanitized, balls are sanitized, everything is wiped off at the end of the day. That finishes my part, and I want to make sure that everyone has a safe time at ESD, a fun time at ESD, and that we are having fun and learning and being safe with each other. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. So I'm going to talk about the snack procedures for this year. As you know, all campuses now have snacks. Last year, we only had Title I campuses, but we've made a change through the district, and so every campus will have snacks. With that, we have procedures that need to be done correctly. So first of all, what makes a snack? A snack consists of two of the following components: serving a milk, meat alternate, fruit, vegetable, full-strength fruit or vegetable juice, and a whole grain or enriched bread or cereal. So you've seen the different mixtures of snacks, the milk with the cereal, the juice with the cheese stick, all of that. There has to be two, the snack component and then the drink component. So examples of the snack menu: the pretzels and the apple juice, cereal and milk, cheese stick and orange juice. And our process. So the snacks are left in a designated area every day, and whether that's decided by the cafeteria manager, whomever, that's the spot. ESD staff members need to distribute the snacks. Each student must sign for their snack, acknowledging that they have received it on the snack roster. Due to the COVID protocol, a staff member may initial for the student. So years past, we had to have the actual student sign off for it, even if they were a kindergartner. Now it's easier because the staff member can just do it. So it's important that a signature is required for each snack that is served. The amount of snacks distributed must have signatures to match. So the snack roster should be left with the remaining snack that were not distributed and or the cooler for the snacks. So for an example, you've got 40 kids on your roster. Awesome, yay, you get 40 snacks, 40 juices, perfect. Well, today you've only had 35 kids show up. Still great day for you guys, but that means you have 5 snacks and 5 juices that were not passed out because those kids were not present. So those snacks need to be returned in that cooler to your designated spot. Everything needs to be counted by that signature. So making sure that you are signing by their name if they were present and they took their snack. If they were absent, there should be no signature by their name, and that snack and juice should be left in that cooler. So going off the example, if you had 40 kids regularly, only 35 showed up today, you are returning 5 juices and 5 snacks into that cooler, and that's to be left there. Perfect. That is the gist of it. So it really isn't that complicated. It just needs to be paid attention to because these are snacks that are paid for through federal dollars. So one day we can be audited, meaning they'll come back, look at the rosters, and see that the amount paid for was not the amount given that day. So it's very important to you guys. You may just say, oh, it's an extra snack, we can have it, whatever. No. Every snack is accounted for, and we'll get in trouble, and you guys will get in trouble if we do not stay on top of that. So you may be wondering, why are the cafeteria managers, asking us a lot, or why are you guys making a big deal? This is money that's being given to our students via snacks. So we have to make sure that we represent that with the amount of kids that are in our program daily. All right? Awesome. So I think that covers the snack procedures. And of course, if you have any questions, please get with your coordinator.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Frederick Clark, ESD coordinator for the Geyer Zone. And today I'm going to be talking to you about surface behavior management techniques, or as I like to call them, SBMTs. SBMTs are things that you can put in your tool belt to help manage the behavior of children, and I've got several different components of that I'm going to be talking about in a moment. So let me start the PowerPoint presentation here. And again, SBMTs are surface behavior management techniques. A couple of quick words about behavior, though, and some reminders. First of all, behavior is not microwavable. Everybody understands this, or they should understand it, that behavior can't change overnight. It's something that takes time to facilitate the management of behavior of children in particular. And it's the same case for adults as well. Also, all children deserve the best and greatest effort from the adults. Nobody disagrees with that. Every single day when we come into work, the children deserve us to do, be, and bring our best every single day. Also, children do their best when they are supported by caring adults, skilled and caring adults. So it's very important to give you the skills that you need in order to help support the children. Additionally, adults need the appropriate tools and skills to be effective with youth. Effective intervention in behavior means providing children with external management guidelines and internal self-management opportunities, because we can't change the behavior of the children. It's up to us to facilitate the change of the children and change of their behavior within themselves. And it's also important to remember that last line that I have underlined there: relationships are the foundation of everything. No matter what we do, whoever we interact with, relationships are the foundation of everything. Now, in understanding behavior, it's important to really, when we talk about it, we're really talking about what is observable, or the observable behavior that we see in a child. And we have to understand, too, that there are many influences that impact or influence that particular observable behavior that a child is exhibiting. And what I'd like you to do is picture an iceberg, and I have a picture here. Everybody knows that an iceberg has a smaller part on top above the water line and it floats, but the majority of the iceberg, in fact, 90% of the iceberg is actually beneath the surface of water. So I want you to think about the top of the iceberg as a child's observable behavior. Those are the things that we actually see. And the things that are influencing that observable behavior of all those items that are underneath that water line, all the cracks and crevices, all the things that are influencing that child's behavior. And it's very difficult, if not impossible, for us to understand and to know exactly what those components are. But it is important to know that we have to understand that there are many different influencing factors underneath the water line of a child that are influencing that observable behavior that we see. Typically, what influences that are attitudes, beliefs, thoughts, and feelings. And I want to talk about each one of those four in a minute, but it's important to understand that those are typically the things that will influence what we actually see when a child is exhibiting a behavior, in particular negative behavior. So let's talk about attitudes and beliefs. An attitude is a state of mind in relation to some matter or situation, a mental or emotional position towards a fact or state of being. That's a pretty complex definition, but basically our attitudes are things that we have put together in our minds, and that's how we reflect on things. And our attitudes are supported by our beliefs. Attitudes can be changed and altered when we make new decisions about what kind of life we'd like to lead or what works or does not work. As we learn, as we move through life and come across new situations, our attitudes can change. Beliefs, on the other hand, not so much. Beliefs are those things that are instilled within us at a very early age, typically from our parents. They may be cultural, racial, religious, or societal norms that we accept and believe as fact without really questioning their validity. It's very challenging, not impossible, but very challenging to shift someone's beliefs because those are something that is coming from a very deep-seated part of growing up. And also, they can function consciously or unconsciously and influence our behavior and our attitudes. And generally, beliefs are fueled by emotions and can directly influence our choices. Then there's thoughts and feelings. Now, the thoughts are things and the meanings that we make out of the sensory data we receive, the primary information from people and experiences. And by that, what I mean is when you are going through life and experiences, when a child is experiencing life, they are utilizing their sensory data. They're hearing things, they're seeing things. The sensory data is what we use as input, and what happens is we try to make sense of that and we interpret it in some way, and then that usually formulates our thoughts about a particular situation. And I will tell you this, and I'm sure you agree, that so many times and most of the time, adults and children get it wrong when they bring the sensory data in and try to interpret something that's going on. And what I mean by that is, how many times have you seen somebody look at you and you automatically think, oh, they're looking at me funny, or they think of me a certain way, or they put things together that really aren't there based on their sensory data. They try to process it based on their needs, their beliefs, their interpretations, judgments, opinions, and expectations. Many times we get it wrong. So our sensory data and our interpretation of sensory data is wrong a lot of times, and it causes us to react in different ways. And it's really important that we understand that is a process that occurs, and it's something that we have to take a while to understand and change that within ourselves. And it does take time. It's a very lengthy process. Again, remember, behavior is not microwavable. So feelings are the spontaneous or programmed psychological reactions to the sensory data. The feelings that you get are basically when you try to make sense of what the sensory data is, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're assuming it was meant by a comment or a look or something or an interpretation. And so it's important to know that although they're separate, thoughts and feelings and behaviors are in constant interaction with each other. So let's dive right into the 14 surface behavior management techniques, or the SBMTs. In other words, I'm going to give you these items and basically ask you what's in your tool belt, because that's what these are all about. These little quick things that you can use in the classroom if you become a teacher, or right now within the program of ESD. These are also techniques that you can use with the family and with others. And so let's dive right in. Successful implementation of the SBMTs requires this list of things and understanding the kindness and authentic caring, development of frame of reference, genuine relationships with youth, understanding the causes of behavior. Again, think about that iceberg that I showed you a moment ago. The willingness to think outside of your own understanding and experiences. And again, remember that we interpret things differently than people do and children do sometimes, and we have to understand that. when we are dealing with children, and adopting new patterns of personal behavior if necessary. And that's all about self-awareness and change. I also want to talk about responding versus reacting. It's very important that we understand the difference. We should always be in the mode of responding rather than reacting. Now, responding is based on logical thought. Reacting is based on emotion. And a lot of times, and I myself will react and then reflect later on and say, geez, I probably should have responded instead of reacting. Because again, reacting is based on emotions and responding is based on logical thought. When we're dealing with children, it's important to understand that we must always be in that mode. When dealing with an angry parent, when dealing with a situation that could develop into a crisis, make sure that you as the adult is always responding rather than reacting, and understanding the difference between the two. The response, again, is based on logical thought. Reaction is based on emotion. The benefits of using the SBMTs go great hand in hand with the CHAMP system that we heard Ms. Estes talk about in one of the videos, or we're about to, depending on where the video is. They promote, maintain, and restore appropriate behavior. They assist adults in responding versus reacting, as I said. They help facilitate the implementation of the 3 Ps, the planning, predicting, and preventing the behavior that the undesirable behaviors. And these are also meant to be simple, effective, and efficient at decreasing those undesirable behaviors and increase the desirable behaviors, because that's ultimately what our goal is. SBMT number 1, permitting behavior. Now, this may seem a little bit logical and obvious, but sometimes it's very important to understand that we must permit the positive types of behaviors that we actually would like to see. And it eliminates the need to constantly and unnecessarily test the limits of the adults if the children know what it is that they cannot do. It's just as important that they know what they can do. And it's important to understand that. So the permitting behavior communicates to the students that we will allow the demonstration of specific desirable behaviors. And that actually is an SBMT, because you are, in a sense, by doing positive, desirable behaviors, avoiding the negative, undesirable behaviors. Planned ignoring is one that you can use when a child sometimes is engaging in negative behavior to receive attention. They're yelling out, they're speaking out of turn, they're making a statement just to try to get a reaction out of others. So ignoring the undesirable behavior will sometimes decrease or extinguish it. And it depends. You have to take a look and see what's going on with the child. Again, think about what's going on underneath their waterline with that iceberg. What's actually influencing them to exhibit those observable behaviors. There could be something that they're very uptight about at home and understanding it. And sometimes ignoring the behavior itself, not drawing attention to that undesirable behavior, actually can extinguish it over time. So planned ignoring should not be used, of course, when a child's negative behavior is potentially dangerous to the physical or psychological well-being of themselves, other children, or adults. So make sure if it's a simple thing that's not going to be dangerous to ignore that behavior, go ahead and try it and see if it works, and sometimes it will extinguish that negative behavior. Stating expectations, number 3. Behavioral expectations must be clearly established. They are basically the stated norms that we talk about in the beginning. You want to keep them simple, keep them at a minimum, and word them positively. You want to say things like walk quietly instead of saying negative talk like no running. Keep them positive, and then post them in occupied spaces. Again, these are letting the children know what you expect of them. Number 4 is supporting from restructuring. You want to basically change the setting to decrease stress levels. If you notice that there's a particular activity that's occurring that is causing stress with the students, or there's a disconnect with the students, or it's about to elevate into a crisis situation, it's good to relocate and transition to a different activity. Okay, it's time to switch to a different activity now. Even though that might not have been the plan, it's okay to do that. That could actually help diminish the undesirable behavior. So regrouping the students or moving to an activity that requires more physical activity is another avenue of support from restructuring. And you can also work with a small group once you relocate them to a different location, especially if you're trying to do conflict resolution with that child. So support from restructuring is also effective. Signal interference. These are things that I know my mother used to use a lot with me when I was growing up. These are things that are nonverbal cues that are utilized to discourage negative behavior. Like the look, like the eyebrow raised. You know what that look is, and all of us have mothers that or fathers that will look at us in a certain way, and that we knew that meant, okay, you better shape up right now. clearing the throat, raising your hand, using mechanical devices, like switching the lights on and off. Proximity control is another signal interference that works very well. Just by relocating yourself and walking around to orienting your body towards the child or moving over to a different location where there seems to be a disruptive issue happening amongst the kids, just your presence moving over there is a signal interference that can cause that undesirable behavior to diminish. And again, these are all things that we expect of our ESD teachers to be moving around at all times, utilizing their signal interference in order to increase desired behaviors and decrease undesirable behaviors. Interest boosting. It's important to know the child's interests, and many of you are learning what the interests are of the child, diverting their attention by refocusing on a topic or action that is of interest to the child. And I've seen many of you do this already. Some of you are already practicing this. You are actually moving a child who likes arts and crafts more into a different activity. It reduces stress for the child. Some of you are utilizing the children as helpers, which puts them in a leadership role. Outstanding. Those are things, wonderful ways to interest boost the child, assigning them a special task, gathering supplies for a group, retrieving a book for activity, passing out handouts, whatever you can think of to allow the child to remove them from a situation and give them an opportunity to do something that reduces stress for them. Antiseptic bouncing. Now, this is one that I used a lot in the classroom because sometimes you actually have to remove the child from the situation. And you want to use reasons for removing that child that are not related to their behavior. So removing them from a crisis situation to actually assign them something that takes them away from the group, delivering a note to somebody else, or redirecting them. Especially I noticed with conflict beginning with children, a lot of times if one of those children I have relied on in the past to do things for me, I would immediately say, hey, can you go take care of this task for me, or can you do this for me? And it allows the child to move away from the situation, allows them to save face, allows them to cool off. And so antiseptic bouncing can be very effective in situations to reduce and eliminate crisis situations. The warning, and again, it's a restatement of a reminder of behavioral expectations, that what is unacceptable, and that there will be undesirable consequences because of it, if the cause of it. If multiple warnings are given without consequences, you got to be careful with that one because it can inadvertently send the message that consequences will not be enforced. If you indicate that there's going to be a consequence and then an undesirable behavior occurs and you do not follow through with that consequence, that will be tested and tested and tested until, in fact, if you offer more than one warning, it must be clear how many warnings will be received until a consequence occurs. So you have to be consistent with this, with your warnings. Support through humor. And this is one that it takes some skill to do this, to utilize humor so that you got to make sure that it's a two-way experience and with both parties enjoy the situation. And this is good because it can reduce anxiety. If you using humor, like, oh yeah, I do things like that too, and that's one of those things, especially if they make a mistake. It's very important that you must avoid using sarcasm. Sarcasm with students is one-way humor. Sarcasm is designed to diminish the self-esteem of a child, and typically, and that's typically not going to happen. Even if you don't think that sarcasm is a problem, most of the time it is, and you will have no way to know about it because, again, there could be things underneath that child's waterline, underneath with their iceberg that are influencing their behaviors that you don't really know about. So sometimes you may strike a nerve with sarcasm and not really even realize it. And sometimes children won't tell you that the sarcasm is affecting them. The fact that it is one-way humor means that you should really avoid it at all costs. So if humor is used, also make sure that it is not misinterpreted by the child as a criticism or a depreciating comment. Number 10, support from routine. Again, this falls right in line with the CHAMPS. All of the routines that are structured to help reduce the negative behaviors, those are the things that fall right in line with this. And many of you are already doing this. You're doing a fantastic job, but it's good to know that that structure really helps with the child. It helps reduce undesirable behaviors. Posting the schedules helps reduce stress and knows what's coming. Also, you need to help the students understand that at times deviations may occur because some students they have a difficult time shifting from that change. And so you have to help them to understand that occasionally that will happen, but typically it's the routines are going to be followed within the organization. Descriptive praise, a positive way to build self-esteem and confidence. And you have to understand that prescriptive praise is descriptive. It's more than just using words like great, terrific, wonderful to describe a child. You have to be specific. Tell the child about their accomplishments, not their personalities. So it deals with the child's efforts of behavior without labeling them as good or the best, allows the child to self-deliver the message about himself or herself, thus internalizing the positive behaviors. Here's an example. Gerald, I noticed that you worked on your project today for 15 minutes, and when you were finished, you asked politely if you could use the restroom. Thank you for demonstrating excellent activity skills today. It was specific, it was descriptive, and it helps them to understand that this is the expected behavior that we did, and it is desirable. Good job. I want to deviate briefly to talk about I statements versus you statements or you messages. It's important that we try as much as possible to use I statements, and this is going to be very challenging for you. You statements are things that point and direct at the child. I statements are things that come from you. I statements are statements that focus on you instead of the other person. An I statement can help avoid the escalation of conflict because they shift the attention away from the other person in the conflict. It makes your wishes and requests known versus ordering the other person to do something. It communicates your willingness to support the other person in demonstrating more functional behavior, and it de-escalates you and your behavior by enabling you to verbalize what you're observing and feeling. In other words, to say, don't run, or you shouldn't be doing that, or you always do that. Those are you statements that you should not be using. I statements are things that puts it on you. I noticed that you were doing this today, and that's wonderful. I really appreciate when you all are doing this. I really appreciate all of you that are standing in line while we go in and transition to the next activity. That tells me that you are all very, that you're following the rules that we need to do. A you statement directs the attention right back at the child, and that's not what you want. You don't want to say something that focuses on them. It encourages the escalation of conflict. It attacks them. It blames the other person for doing something unacceptable. You identify the other person as the problem instead of what the behavior is. And you create a need for the other person to defend themselves in many cases by saying, you should know better than that, or you always do those sorts of things. You want to try to avoid those as much as possible. That's going to be a challenge for a lot of you because we were raised by parents who used a lot of you messages with us. I myself were raised that way. So try to use I statements as much as possible with the students. Okay, number 12, direct appeal to values. When values and boundaries are clearly established, and we're talking about EST values, the things that we value, reflecting back on CHAMPS, what it is that we value within the CHAMPS system. For example, if one of the values is we will not take things that don't belong to us, and a child is tempted to do that, you want to state it and say, one of our values is that we don't do those things. It's things that don't belong to us. We shouldn't be taking them. And again, this is a direct appeal to the values of the organization, and in many ways, the values of the child itself. It allows the child to internalize their behavior or their choices. Conferencing. Pulling the student aside from peers, having a private conversation, gives you a chance to reinforce the expectations, to not front the child out, to keep them separated from other children, and make sure that you avoid lecturing the child when you do that. To make sure that you avoid the you language, avoid the negative talk, like you should know better than that, or use the I language rather than the you language when you are conferencing. And enforcement of consequences. This, of course, has to happen. You have to make sure that the consequences are understood. If a violation requires an incident referral form, it's important to make sure that all the students understand what the consequences are, and that the consequences are there to decrease the undesirable behaviors. When redirecting or coaching the student after they've made a poor choice, use reflective practices. And keep in mind that it must be immediate, non-punitive, and consistent. Do not use the enforcement or consequences because you're angry or you're reacting because you want to punish or want to get back at the student. There's really no place for that at all. That doesn't help the child and ultimately doesn't help you as a leader either. Do not front the student out for making a poor choice. Don't embarrass them in front of others. Make sure that you are attempting to facilitate a change in their own behavior through self-reflection, self-thought, not through embarrassment. That does not work with children. So those are the SBMTs, and I want to say that through my observations with everyone and all the schools that I've gone to, keep up the great work. I mean, you guys are wonderful. We appreciate all that you do every day. And if at any time you have any questions about any of the topics that I'm talking about, I spend a lot of time talking about them, so I'll be more than happy to clarify anything if you'd like. So keep up the great work, and I will see you shortly. Hope you had a wonderful weekend.
Hi, everyone. I am Ms. Estes, one of your ESD coordinators, and I am going to update you with staff development related to CHAMP's student management process. The CHAMP student management process is used on a daily basis with our school district principals, counselors, and teachers. And as well, our after school program, the extended school day program, uses it. Most of our instructors are already trained to use it. Some instructors may be similarly aware of the program or the process, but may not be using it on a daily basis. And so that's what this update is about. The update is to familiarize instructors that are not using it all the time. And then it's also as a review for those who are using it. And you'll see that using this process, as you go through the process on a daily basis with your students in the after school program, you're going to see that it allows you to have structure with the program and your activities with your students. It's going to allow you to teach expectations and to teach your lesson activities. It will also allow you to observe and to monitor and see what's going on and what's happening in the different rotations throughout the afternoon. Also, CHAMPS will allow you to interact with your students and see and talk with them and help them through their activities. CHAMPS will also allow you to correct misbehavior consistently, quickly, and privately. This process includes the following: expectations, actions, strategies, and daily reminders. CHAMPS is an acronym. The acronym of CHAMPS stands for C for conversation, H for help, A for activity, M for movement, and P for participation, and S is for success. You should be using CHAMPS in all areas and all your rotations throughout the after school program. And there are expectations that I'm going to review now, or familiarize those instructors who are not using it on a daily basis. There's a number of rotations as you all rotate through with your students, such as starting off your day with the assembly area and the roll check, which is attendance check. And so I'm going to explain as I go through the various rotations how you are applying CHAMPS with your students. For the roll call and attendance check rotation, C is for level 0, where the students are quiet. H is for assistance and help. An activity that is taking place at that time is attendance check. Movement, students should be seated. Participation, students should be seated, listening, responding, and waiting for instructions from the lead instructor or all the instructors. That is the time that we call during the assembly area time. It's a community meeting. And the community meeting is where your instructors, especially the lead instructor, is giving you information about whatever the activities are going to be for recreation and the crafts for the day, explaining homework rotation and reading rotations. Transition. You're always moving around every 30 minutes. You're going from one location to another. And so with transition, with CHAMPS, conversation is level 0, should be silent. For help and assistance, this process will allow the students to raise their hands if they need help. The activity is relocating from one area to the other, whether it's relocating from the cafeteria to the restroom area and so forth. Movement is walking in line formation, and due to our COVID and safety protocols, we are making sure that our students are social distancing while lining up. And for participation, our students are walking with the group. During afternoon snack, of course, our students are practicing social distancing. The conversation is level 0 or level 1, which is silent or whispering. For help, students are raising their hand if they need assistance or help. For activity, snack is the activity that's taking place. For movement, students are seated at the tables, on the benches. And for participation, students should be seated, eating, drinking, and cleaning up. Cleaning up is very important. And at that time, that may be a time where some instructors are playing the cleanup song and allow the students to move around their tables and pick up items that need to be thrown away and tidy up the area at the tables and put their lunch boxes back into their backpacks. For the restroom and water fountain, due to our COVID safety protocols, the water fountains are not being used. The only water fountain that is being used is some of the schools in the hallway near the restroom area and the cafeteria. They have a fountain specifically for putting water inside of the water bottles. And so when children are using the restroom, conversation level is 0, they're silent. For help and assistance, the student will then tell the instructor if there's a concern or issue in the restroom area. For activity, it's the restroom break, and also it could be a time for filling up their water bottles. For movement, students are walking in appropriate areas, and also for participation, students are taking about a 2 to 4 minute process to finish their restroom time. Homework and reading, conversation level is silent or whisper. Students will raise their hand if they need help and assistance. The activity is homework or reading. Movement is seated. Participation is students are being seated. They're reading, writing, they're working alone, or they may be working with a partner as a share pair time. With that, we're still social distancing. Of course, our students at all times are wearing masks, and they may want to share some information as they're doing homework, but we're also practicing the social distancing. Hallway and commons area. This is a time where the cafeteria may be off limits. You may not be able to use the gymnasium, or it could be bad weather outdoors and you can't go outdoors for whatever reason. So you'll have to, sometimes there are times you conduct your activities in the hallway or commons area. So once again, the conversation should be silent or whisper. Students will raise their hand if they need help and assistance. Activity is the lesson activity, whatever has been planned by the instructors following the lesson plan and activity plans. Movement is seated, and participation, students are seated, cooperating with the group. For arts and craft and enrichment time, conversation level is whisper. It also can be a level 1 to a level 2, which is level 2 is the normal voice tone. Conversation can vary during that time because students are busy being creative. For help and assistance, students are raising their hand if they need assistance. The activity is the arts and craft. And for movement, students are seated. Now, the instructors may allow students to walk to get supplies. And so they may not have to raise their hand to get up and get scissors or glue or other items for the craft. And so they have permission to automatically get up and move around. What we have done this school year, due to the safety precautions and protocols that we are following, a lot of the craft items that students may need to touch on a daily basis are being packaged in plastic baggies, but there still may be some supplies sometimes during the craft time that students may need to get up and move around to access those supplies as needed. Participation is arranging, designing, creating, and cleaning up. And once again, cleaning up is always important, and that may be a time where the instructors are playing the cleanup song to allow the students to move around their tables, clean up, tidy up, and put items and trash in the trash barrels. Computer lab. There are some after-school programs that are utilizing the computer labs, and if that is so, the conversation level should be level 0, silent. Students, if they need assistance and help, they will raise their hand for help. The activity is the technology activity. For movement, students are seated. For participation, they're seated using the computer. The gymnasium. There may be some after-school programs that right now at the beginning of the school year, they may not be utilizing the gymnasium due to our safety protocols. If you are one of the after-school programs that are using the gym, the conversation level is level 3 or level 4, which is loud voices, very loud because they're playing in the gym, and also following the protocols. If students are handling any of the recreation items, they're singly using those items because they are cleaned at the end of the program. For if students need help and assistance, then they're asking the instructor to assist them with whatever they're playing with and whatever the game is at that time. Activity is sports, the movement is playing, and for participation, the interaction with their group. Outdoors, the conversation level is level 3, level 4. Once again, they're having fun. The loud voices, very loud voices outdoors. If students are needing assistance, they're talking with their instructor that if they need any help with playing the outdoors. The activity is sports, the movement is playing, and participation is interaction with group. Now, as we move on to actions within the after-school programs, we want to make sure we're always reminding our students to be polite to each other and to interact with the instructors and themselves and their other participants and be friendly. And so I have 6 important actions I'm focusing on as I guide you through the CHAMPS process. And the first 3 that you see on the screen, actions 1, 2, and 3. Students should be always reminded to respect themselves, the instructors, and other participants every day. Students should be listening to all of the instructors whenever the instructors are speaking to them. And the students should be following directions the first time. Actions 4, 5, and 6. Remind your students to use such words as yes, may I, please, and thank you. Remind students to keep their hands and feet and other objects to themselves. And also, it's important to remind the students to stay away from all hallway doors, restroom doors, and outside doors. As we move on to other actions that are important, these are attention-getting signals. And I realize a lot of the instructors, you have attention-getting strategies that you use with your students, but these are just some examples to be able to get your students' attention quickly so that they can start listening to you, because you'll need them to line up, transition them to different locations throughout the school or to outdoors. And so when you can command in a very polite way, easy way, something that's very simple to get the students' attention, you'll see that the program will run smoothly and you won't waste a lot of time. So one example is, for example, use a normal tone of voice to say, students, your attention please. You, the instructor, will raise your hand in the air until students are quiet. You can do a countdown system and teach the students to comply with your request within 5 seconds. And as you continue to do a signal like this, you'll see that as they hear your voice and they hear that command in a pleasant way, they'll start respecting that and start giving their attention. Other attention-getting strategies I have listed here on the screen, numbers 2, 3, and 4, is the clapping hands. So you're clapping your hands several times, and then the students repeat that clapping movement. Another attention-getting strategy is you'll say, as an instructor, 1, 2, 3, all eyes on me. Students repeat, 1, 2, all eyes on you. That's another example that's used quite often. For outdoors and in gymnasium, you may blow your whistle, and it is suggested that to only blow your whistle in the gym and outdoors, and refrain from doing that in the cafeteria or in the hallways. It can be rather alarming. But once again, these were only 4 signals, attention-getting signals that I shared with you. When I'm visiting campuses, I hear all kinds of cute sayings that the students know how to chant back, and it makes attention-getting fun, and it allows the students to transition from the regular school day with signals that they've learned from their classroom teachers. And then when you're using some of the same ones, it just makes the process seamless and it goes easily. Encouragement is a part of CHAMPS as well. And so you want to keep this in mind as you're going through the rotations with all of your expectations, the actions and signals and strategies that you're using. Here are some helpful strategies for encouragement. As you see on the screen, I have 3 listed: verbal praise, reward, and social skill awards. For the verbal praise, and verbal praise is not only for the lead instructor to start these little phrases and statements that they say to the students. It should be all instructors joining in. You're looking for students doing actions and saying things that are correct. You want to say their name. Students always love to hear their name followed by a good praise instead of something negative all the time. So you're saying things like, great job, way to go, you're awesome, giving a thumbs up and smiling as you're talking. And all of that, once again, helps to end their day in a positive way. Students sometimes may have struggled during the school day, but you're here in the after school program to catch them and see them doing and saying things that are correct and helpful. Rewards. Everyone likes to receive a reward. And so the reward system is like a lottery system where the instructors are tallying on a daily, weekly basis. And then at the end of the week, the students are receiving prizes. It could be some students are receiving daily prizes, or it could be weekly. And of course, parents love to see those items going home. It could be a ticket system that you're using when you're seeing students that are being cooperative and helpful. And once again, you're giving lots of great praises and saying good and fun words with them. And so the words are good, but then you tie it together and link it all together with the rewards, such as small little toys, just simple items that you may purchase. We have treasure boxes that are provided by the after school program with some items for treasure items. And then also some instructors add on to those items by purchasing some small items also to make it more abundance in the selective items that they have for their children for the toys and rewards. It's always good to hand those rewards out at the end of the day when parents are signing out the children, so that the parent can see what you're giving their children. For the social skill awards, these awards, it doesn't have to be a special, elaborate ceremony. It can be that you and your team are discussing on a daily basis and a weekly basis of all the praises and the things that you're seeing that your students are being good line leaders. They're completing their homework. They're helping other students in the program, and they're just being friendly. You're giving out the treats at the end of the day or end of the week, and then you're saying the encouraging words, but also parents like to see the awards that go home. And it can be a simple, small certificate that you're giving out to the parent, to the child, and you hand it to the parent so that they can take it home. And it could be something you're doing maybe on a weekly basis. It doesn't have to be a special ceremony. But my key to this is, remember, all children, as you're giving out the awards and certificates, everyone receives one. So that's why when you're working with CHAMPS, you're making sure that if you have a campus of 40 students or 20 students or maybe 10 students on your campus, all of your students are receiving a certificate if you do it weekly or just by month. And so you're looking for the good, the things that they're saying and doing. It's an inclusive program. And there are times we have to redirect students, of course. They are children, and so we're always thinking about how can we redirect students in a quick manner, in something that's not going to take up a lot of time, to hurry up and get them back on the right track again. So I have several redirectives listed here that I'll review. Verbal warnings, timeout based on the children's age, and then you may have to adjust their action chart based on their behavior. And so once again, these things can be done seamless. Things that you're saying, timeout, if you're giving timeout and you're talking through the student as they're in timeout sometimes, so that you can limit keeping them in timeout for a long time, because you just basically, in most cases, just want the child that has struggled with their behavior to apologize and move on with good behavior. Now we're thinking about putting it all together. Everything that I've been talking about so far, put your action and all your plan together with CHAMPS. And as a review, you want to be thinking about this on a daily basis, as you see on the screen here now. You and your entire team working together, teaching your expectations, using your actions and your signals, and allow the students to lead with some of the CHAMPS, some of the signals and some of the chants that you do. That's when your teaching you're seeing that it's coming into fruition, because they're they know the chants and the chants better than you know them. Because once again, we're doing champs and the classroom teachers are doing champs throughout the school day. You all are working together as a team, and it's not just the lead instructor that is following champs. It's everyone working together, whether it's 2 instructors on the campus, 3 instructors, 5 instructors on the campus, or even more. Everyone is thinking about champs together, especially when it comes to the attention getting strategies. It should be everyone is joining in with you all's declared chants that you do. You may have several for a campus that you're using. So do keep in mind, it takes everyone working together, as you see on the screen, the puzzle with the 4 individuals here, putting the puzzle together. You stand stronger together, going through the expectations, the actions and strategies, because as you're working through and using champs, your students will love ESD. Thank you, and I hope you've learned and reviewed this information with me with champs. And as myself and the coordinators, as we're monitoring your campuses, we're going to be looking forward to seeing you all using champs. Thank you.
Alrighty, y'all. We hope that you enjoyed this presentation, that you paid very close attention, and that you're going to be doing all the things that we're asking of you in program. Make sure you take a snapshot of your last slide and send it to us so that you get paid for watching today. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep
Bye.
doing the great work. Folks, if you would please take a screen snapshot of this slide and email it with your name to your ESD coordinator. This will serve as documentation that you participated. Have a great week.